we can know the type of memory device by knowing the location of that device. While accessing also, while reading also, there will be sequential method that we use to access the data. Storing of the data to the memory and fetching the data out of the memory. So accessing will be either to read the data or to write the data. How we can store the data is only in terms of bits, and bits have two values, 1 and 0. Hello students, welcome to the next session of Digital Electronics. In this session, let's know about the different characteristics of the memory system. Why do we need memory system and what are the different characteristics you can have for a memory system? Let's start the session. The characteristics is, there are mainly 8 characteristics you can list for a memory system. Okay, so first one is the location. Why do we need the location? So location is the first and foremost characteristic of any memory system. This shows whether the location of the memory device is external or internal to the computer. So we have memory sticks like pen drives, CDs, flash drives, which are external to the computer. They are externally connected and the data are stored in them, isn't it? So the location shows, or location is used to know whether the device is external or internal to the computer. The internal memory and external memory are a lot different from each other. Their working principle, how they are going to store the data, how they can be accessed from the computer when next time you are connecting it, all will be different in case of internal and external memory devices. While the internal memory is embedded directly on the computer motherboard, internal memories like auxiliary memories, primary memories, cache memory and everything will be embedded in the motherboard. In a single board, you will be embedding the memory. Whereas external memory is separate from the main computer unit in the form of a storage disk, such as disks and tapes. You can have external disk and external tape. You can connect to the computer, which are external memory devices. And we have the most popular pen drives, CDs, the memory sticks, then we have the flash memories. All those things will be external kind of device which are connected by outside to the computer to store and access the data. Okay, so the external memory devices are controlled from the I/O controllers. There will be input-output control modules which control the operation of the external memory devices, while internal memory takes the form of cache memory, registers, main memory and the auxiliary memory. You can know the location, we can know the type of memory device by knowing the location of that device. This is the first characteristic of any memory system. Second one is the capacity. What is the capacity of the memory devices? So capacity is measure of amount of data the memory device can store. How much data the memory device can store is the capacity of a computer. For internal memory, this is measured in terms of bytes, while in external memory, it is measured in bytes or words, where a word length may be 8, 16 or 32 bit. Word is grouping of the bits. Whereas the internal memory usually measured in terms of the bytes, like megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes, like that. While in external memory, they will be counted in terms of bytes or words. So they will be 8, 16 or 32 bits. So capacity varies in the internal as well as the external devices. The third method is access method. As I already said, the access method refer to the method by which the data is returned to or read from a memory device. You are going to write it into the memory or you are reading from the memory. There are 4 access methods which you already know it, isn't it? Like direct access, sequential access, random access and associative access method. So we have 4 methods in that. The first thing is the direct access method. How do you directly access it? So every memory block is marked by a unique address. Access is made directly by first reaching the location or vicinity and following the sequential search. First, the memory will be stored in a blocks. First memory location of the block will be reached by the processor and the sequential search sequentially or one by one location will be searched to get the required data. An example of memory device that uses the direct memory access method is the hard disk that we use or the auxiliary memory or the magnetic tapes and disks are the memory devices where data are accessed using the direct access method. The next type is the sequential access. As we know about the sequential access, uses a shared read-write mechanism. Both will be there to sequentially access the data, either to read or to write. An example of storage device that uses the sequential access method is the tape. You know about the tape of a cassette, isn't it? So it will be sequentially written over the tapes. While accessing also, while reading also, there will be sequential method that we use to access the data. So the storage device which uses the sequential access method is the tape. Here we have sequential accessing of the memory locations 1, 2, 3, 4 like this. In an order or in a sequence, the data accessing will be done. This is called as the sequential access method. The third one is the random access method. So each block in memory has its unique and physically wired in addressing mechanism. Each location will have a unique address. An example of storage device that uses the random access method is the RAM. We use the random access memory which uses the random access method. Like any location you can randomly select to access. Like this 1 to 2, 3 to 8 like this you can access, which is random and is not fixed. It's called as the random access method. Then we have the associative access method. How do you access a data using associative access method? Access to data is made by comparing the required bit location within a word. If a word is maybe 18, 16 or 32 bits, if you take 8 bits, say 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1. So you have 8 bits, make up a byte. These 8 bits make a byte. Access to data is made by comparing the required bit location within a word based on specified data element. If you want a bit 101, so there will be generating or they will be notifying a bit location within a word based on specific data element. What data element you need? An example of a storage device that uses the associative access method is the cache memory. Here, speed is the main, isn't it? We can't go on searching for the data element in all the available memory locations. Instead, what you will do is, we will compare the required bit location within a word based on specified data element. So, the processor will go on looking for the combination of 101. If the CPU is successful in getting that data, it is going to be fetched by the processor. One of the thing is, it needs to have address location previously specified in the associative access method. This is the fourth type of access method, but is very rarely used. Only sometimes cache memory is accessed using the associative method, or else random access method is usually used. Okay, this is the access methods. Next is the unit of transfer. Unit of transfer tells you about how the data has been or will be transferred between the memory and the processor. This is a measure of the transfer rate of the data in and out of the memory from the processor. Storing of the data to the memory and fetching the data out of the memory. Okay. In internal memory, this is determined by number of electrical lines. How many signal lines, bus and control bus, data bus, address bus we have. Based on that, the transfer of the data will be speed of the data transfer, or the capacity of the data which can be transferred will be measured. Okay. And coming out of the memory, electrical lines going into and coming out of the memory, with each line carrying data of word length. That is, each time a data is transferred, 8 bits of data is transferred. Either 8 or 16 or 32 bits of data is transferred at a time when it is moving from memory or to memory. From memory or to memory will be carried out or will be measured by using the number of electrical lines. In an external memory, this is determined by the number of bits read out. If it is a pen drive, how many data have been read or written into the memory at a time. Like you have written 50 bytes of data, 50 MB of data, or 500 bytes of data. Like this, the number of bits that has been read from the data and written into the device or read from the device will be considered as the unit of transfer. It will be in terms of bits, whereas in internal memory, it is the electric lines coming and going out of the memory. Okay. So next characteristic is the performance. How do you measure the performance? This is a measure of overall efficiency of the memory system. How you can access, how the memory system is capable of handling the data load. Okay. There are 3 parameters that can be used to measure the performance of a memory system. One is the transfer rate, next is the memory cycle time, and third is the access time we can use. Okay. Let's know about all these 3 characteristics. One is the transfer rate. This is the rate at which data is transmitted into and out of the memory, which is coming into the memory or going out of the memory. This is the rate, that is data transfer rate from memory and to memory. Then memory cycle time, the time required to access a block in memory. There will be memory, as I said, memory will be divided into blocks and will be stored in the memory. The time required to access a block in memory, as well as the period to start the second access. First access is done and the operation has stopped, the execution has stopped, and the next time when the second access is done by the processor, the same memory, the next time the memory is accessed. That time gap is called as the memory cycle time. Okay, time required to access a block of memory as well as the period to start the second access. This is called as the memory cycle. From the time the CPU has started accessing the memory and the time until it has accessed and stopped its accessing. And the next time it is accessed. That time gap is called as the memory cycle time. The next category or parameter is the access time. the time required to carry out the read or write operation. Once the memory cycle time, the processor is going to access the memory. While using the memory, the time which is required to carry out the read or write operation over the memory is called as the access time. We are not going to access just for the time pass, isn't it? So accessing will be either to read the data or to write the data, isn't it? So the time required to do these two operations, read or write, is called as the access time in the memory. Okay. Next is the physical type. What kind of memory types you can have? Okay, this is the shape and form of the memory it takes. Shape and form, what form of memory it can take. There are about 4 of each forms we can list out. One is the magnetic type, another is the semiconductor type, third is the optical type, fourth is the magneto-optical type. We have 4 types of memories: magnetic, semiconductor, optical and the magneto-optical. Next is the organization. The organization of a memory system refers to the physical arrangement of the bits. How they are arranged in a memory system will be another characteristic. The last one is the physical characteristics. So this is the nature of the memory system, whether they are volatile, non-volatile, erasable, non-erasable. So what is the difference between these 4 is that volatile is it will be automatically erased when it is switched off, system is switched off. Non-volatile is even if you switch off, the memory will retain the data in the memory. Erasable is when the system is working, you can erase some systems or some data in the memory, like it is in the primary memory, some data can be erased. Non-erasable, the read-only memories in the auxiliary memory, the data in the auxiliary memory cannot be erased. It is a non-erasable memory where you can't erase those things which contains the various system softwares to run the system. So you can't erase those data. They are called as the non-erasable memory types. Okay. Next we shall know about what is a semiconductor memory. Semiconductor memory is a type of semiconductor device which is meant for storing the data. We use semiconductor, optical type of memory or magnetic type of memory or magneto-optical type. What is this semiconductor memory? Magnetic memory is using magnetic tapes and disk. We have the semiconductor memory which is meant for storing the data. There are 2 electronic data storage mediums that we can utilize for storing the data, that is the magnetic or optical type of storage you can use. Okay. There are magnetic storage you can use. They store the data in magnetic form, like these are magnetic disk and tapes. This is the disk and this is the tape. They store the data in a magnetic form. It is affected by the magnetic fields. If you have magnetic fields around in your room, it may affect the operation or execution of a system, working of a system with the magnetic disk. It has high storage capacity. So magnetic storage are having enormous capacity and can store numerous type of data, enormous number of data. Doesn't use a laser to read or write the data. They won't use the laser. Instead, they use the read and write head, physical heads, to write the data onto the disks and the tapes. Okay. Magnetic storage devices we use are the hard disk, the floppy disk. This is the floppy disk, which is not used now. The magnetic tape, this is another one. All these are the example of the magnetic storage. Next we have the optical type of storage. The optical type of storage stores data optically in the form of a light signals, okay, light waves. Optics means light waves, isn't it? So it stores the data optically, uses laser to read or write. Optical light-based waves or electric signals will be used, which are called as the optics. They use the laser to read or write the data and is not affected by any magnetic field. Even if you have magnetic field around the location of the system, it will not affect the working mode of the system. Then it has less storage than the magnetic one. Magnetic has more number of storage when compared to the optical, but is having less storage. Data accessing is high compared to a floppy disk. When you compare it to a floppy disk, data accessing capability is high, but not as the magnetic disk. Optical storage device we can use are the CD-ROM. So you know about the CDs, isn't it? So CD-ROM, where CDs we have two types, which is only readable, read-only memory, compact disk. CD stands for compact disk. Compact disk which are read-only are called as the CD-ROM. Then we have CD-readable. You can read them. CD-RW, that is read and write. This is general purpose. Once you write them, you can't replace. That will be permanent. The user can write the data to the CD. It is called as the CD-readable. Once you write the data, you can't erase it. It will be permanent. Then we have CD-RW, that is rewritable. You can erase one data and you can add another data. Then we have the digital video disc, that is the DVD. These are the many of the optical storage devices that you can use. See here, we have the diagrammatic representation of the semiconductor memory. We have the volatile and non-volatile memory. Volatile memory has static RAM and the dynamic RAM. Non-volatile has ferroelectric RAM, the mask ROM, EEPROM, EEPROM and the flash memory. We have these many semiconductor memories. Okay. Next we shall know about the memory cell operation. Each cell of or each location of the memory, how it stores the data and allows the processor to access the data. Okay. The basic element of a semiconductor memory is the memory cell. Cell is nothing but single cell. Cell is the single unit of any organism, isn't it? Like in the same meaning, the cell is the single unit of a memory or single location of a memory. Okay. Although a variety of electronic technologies are used to access the cell, all semiconductor memory cells share certain properties. What are those properties that are shared? One is they exhibit two stable or semi-stable states, which can be used to represent 1 and 0. They use two states which can be equivalent to binary 1 and 0. This is necessary because how we can store the data is only in terms of bits, and bits have two values, 1 and 0. So cell must store the data either in 1 form or in 0 form, isn't it? So it has two stable states which correspond to binary 0 and 1. They are capable of being written into to set the state. You can write once to set the state. You will be having registers which help in accessing the cell. The third property is they are capable of being read to sense the state. They can be read to view the or read the sense or read the state, in which state it is, whether it is high or low, will be understood by the memory cell. Now we have the figure which depicts the operation of a memory cell. We have the control bus, select signal, data will be given to the cell. This is write operation. Control will be there which controls what data must be written to this cell. And when the control signal is set to set, when yes signal will be set to 1, the data will be stored into the cell. The cell will be selected and data will be inserted or given or written into the cell. Whereas in read operation, the cell will be selected first and then control line sets or resets the value. When control line is set to 1, the data is read from the processor. The sensing will be done by the cell. The data will be accessed by the cell. This is the read and the write operation, how it can happen in a memory system. Okay. Commonly, the cell has 3 functional terminals which are capable of carrying an electrical signal, which they can carry the electrical signal. Okay. The select terminal is the one, as the name suggests, selects a memory cell for a read or write operation. For which cell the data must be written and for which cell from which cell the data must be read will be decided by the select terminal. Then we have the control terminal. It indicates whether to read or write, set or reset. 0 or 1 will be set either to read or write. For writing, the other terminal, we have another terminal here. We have the data in for writing. For writing, the other terminal provides an electrical signal that sets the state of the cell to 1 or 0. So now which state in the cell is? It will be changed. If the cell is in 0 state, it will be changed to 1 state to write. If the cell is in 1 state, it will be set to 0 for write operation. When for reading, the terminal is used for output of the cell's state, either 0 or 1. That state will be output so that the processor can read the data from the cell. Okay, so this is about how the memory can be organized, how they can be accessed, what are the different characteristics of memory system, the various forms of memory we have in that computer or in a general computer system. All we have discussed in this session. All right. Thank you.